The city of Los Angeles has often been a backdrop for major announcements in the global entertainment industry, and this time it was no different. On a clear summer morning in 2025, headlines across multiple news platforms carried the same surprising revelation. Jungkook of BTS had officially signed on as the newest brand ambassador for a global label in Los Angeles. But contrary to many speculations, it was not Calvin Klein. For months, fans and industry insiders had been anticipating that Jungkook's partnership with Calvin Klein, a collaboration that began in 2023, would naturally extend into new campaigns. After all, his association with the fashion house had already become iconic. His campaigns were among the most talked about promotional launches in recent memory. Yet the news coming from Los Angeles defied expectations. Jungkook was indeed returning to the spotlight of fashion ambassadorship, but with a completely different company that surprised even the most attentive of armies. The press release was short, official, and deliberately minimalist. It contained a few photographs of Jungkook at a private signing ceremony in downtown Los Angeles. There were no elaborate teasers, no weeks of cryptic hints, and no countdowns. Instead, the brand and Jungkook's representatives opted for a straightforward reveal. The decision appeared intentional, designed to maximize the impact of surprise while minimizing premature leaks. Within minutes of the release going live, international media outlets had picked up the story, sparking discussions not only among BTS fans, but also across the broader fashion and business communities. The choice of Jungkook as a brand ambassador was hardly a shock in itself. For years, he has been viewed as one of the most marketable figures in contemporary pop culture. His influence spans music, digital platforms, lifestyle trends, and consumer behavior in ways that few public figures can rival. What startled many observers was the decision to align with a different brand instead of continuing what seemed to be a successful relationship with Calvin Klein. The public had assumed that Calvin Klein, already benefiting from Jungkook's global appeal, would hold on to him for as long as possible. When photographs from the Los Angeles announcement surfaced, they provided subtle but telling details. Jungkook was dressed in a sleek, monochromatic outfit that clearly diverged from the minimalism often associated with Calvin Klein. His styling leaned into a more tailored, urban luxury aesthetic, suggesting that his new partnership would carry different creative directions. The backdrop of the ceremony was intentionally understated, featuring the new brand's insignia in silver lettering on a matte black surface. Unlike the clean white Calvin Klein imagery, this one projected a sense of modernity with an edge. The initial wave of reports did not immediately confirm which brand Jungkook had partnered with, adding to the speculation. Within hours, however, it became clear Jungkook was now the official ambassador for a different global fashion powerhouse headquartered in Los Angeles. The company in question had been quietly building momentum in recent years, particularly in North America and Asia, and Jungkook's involvement seemed designed to solidify its place on the international stage. Why Los Angeles? The city has long served as a strategic hub for global fashion marketing, particularly when connecting Asian influence with Western markets. BTS themselves have strong ties to Los Angeles, having filmed content, concerts, and brand campaigns there over the years. For Jungkook, the city provided a symbolic location for this new chapter in his career. Los Angeles represents not only Hollywood glamour, but also a convergence point for music, fashion, and lifestyle industries. By announcing the ambassadorship there, both Jungkook and the brand emphasized their intention to operate on a global level, transcending regional markets. As expected, ARMY, the ever-vigilant fandom of BTS, reacted with speed and intensity. Social media platforms trended almost instantly, with hashtags speculating about the reasons behind Jungkook's brand transition. Many fans expressed curiosity. Was the Calvin Klein collaboration ending, or was this simply an expansion of Jungkook's portfolio? Others highlighted that Jungkook had always been known for versatility, and that his ability to adapt across brands was part of his unique appeal. From a business perspective, Jungkook's ambassadorship represents a calculated move in the evolving dynamics between K-pop and global branding. Over the last decade, BTS members have individually and collectively partnered with numerous multinational companies, ranging from luxury fashion houses to electronics and beverages. Each partnership is often dissected by fans, analysts, and marketers alike, not only because of the promotional campaigns but also because of the cultural signals they send. Jungkook's new role in Los Angeles was no exception. It immediately raised questions about competitive positioning in the fashion sector and how brands leverage the influence of global celebrities. For Calvin Klein, the news may mark a moment of recalibration. While the brand benefited immensely from its partnership with Jungkook, the exclusivity of celebrity endorsements is rarely permanent. Fashion marketing is dynamic, and contracts are often time-limited. It is entirely possible that Jungkook's contract with Calvin Klein had run its course, leaving him free to pursue new opportunities. Alternatively, it may have been a deliberate strategic choice by Jungkook and his management to diversify his brand associations, signaling growth beyond a single partnership. In the meantime, the brand that secured Jungkook's ambassadorship is expected to launch a full-scale campaign in the coming weeks. According to industry insiders, photo shoots had already been completed in Los Angeles months earlier, kept confidential under non-disclosure agreements. These campaigns are rumored to include not only still photography, but also short films that highlight Jungkook's dual identity as a musician and a global fashion icon. The creative direction will reportedly emphasize authenticity, aligning Jungkook's personal image with the brand's core philosophy. When discussing Jungkook's presence in the fashion world, it is impossible to ignore the profound impact of his collaboration with Calvin Klein. His ambassadorship with the brand, which began in March 2023, was not only a turning point for the label but also a milestone in the broader relationship between K-pop and Western fashion houses. Before the Los Angeles announcement in 2025, Calvin Klein was widely considered Jungkook's most significant fashion partnership, making it logical for many fans and analysts to predict a continued collaboration. Understanding why this assumption prevailed requires a closer look at Jungkook's trajectory in fashion and the ways in which Calvin Klein shaped his public image during those years. Jungkook, often referred to as BTS's golden magne, had always displayed a unique relationship with style. Unlike some idols whose fashion sense is heavily curated by stylists, Jungkook's offstage choices frequently attracted attention for their simplicity and relatability. He favored clean silhouettes, monochromatic tones, and casual streetwear, often pairing oversized hoodies with fitted jeans or simple sneakers. This understated style resonated with many fans who viewed it as authentic and approachable. Yet at the same time, his stage outfits revealed another dimension: sleek leather jackets, tailored suits, and performance-ready ensembles that highlighted his versatility. Calvin Klein, with its heritage of minimalism and cultural boldness, proved to be a perfect match for this duality. The campaign launch in 2023 became an online phenomenon almost overnight. Within hours of its release, Calvin Klein's website traffic spiked dramatically, and products associated with Jungkook's campaign reportedly sold out in multiple regions. Media outlets described the collaboration as one of the most successful in the brand's modern history, attributing much of its momentum to the global reach of BTS's fanbase. For Calvin Klein, the partnership was more than a marketing move. It was a statement of relevance in a new cultural era. The decision to feature Jungkook was also consistent with Calvin Klein's long-standing tradition of collaborating with cultural icons. From actors and athletes to supermodels, the brand has historically chosen ambassadors who embody both individual confidence and mass appeal. Jungkook fit neatly into this narrative while simultaneously expanding it. Unlike many of his predecessors, his influence spanned continents in real time, amplified by social media platforms where BTS commanded unmatched engagement. This gave Calvin Klein not only exposure, but also a deeply interactive promotional cycle fueled by millions of armies who actively discussed, reposted, and purchased. Given the overwhelming success of this partnership, industry experts assumed the relationship would extend indefinitely. Renewals of ambassador contracts are common when campaigns generate significant revenue and brand recognition. Moreover, Jungkook himself appeared comfortable in the Calvin Klein narrative. His photo shoots displayed ease, and his interviews highlighted mutual respect between the artist and the brand. The synergy seemed natural, leading to speculation that Calvin Klein would continue positioning Jungkook at the forefront of its marketing strategies. However, the fashion industry is rarely predictable. Endorsement deals, no matter how successful, are shaped by factors beyond public perception. Contract terms, financial negotiations, creative direction, and long-term strategy all play roles in determining continuity. While Calvin Klein might have wished to retain Jungkook, it is equally plausible that his management sought to diversify his portfolio or explore partnerships offering different artistic opportunities. In this sense, the Los Angeles announcement did not signify a rejection of Calvin Klein, but rather the opening of a new chapter. It is worth noting that Jungkook's role in Calvin Klein was not his only foray into fashion. Prior to and during his CK ambassadorship, he had been linked to multiple luxury houses, either through BTS's group promotions or indirect associations. BTS collectively had partnerships with brands like Louis Vuitton, which appointed the group as ambassadors in 2021. Although that contract eventually concluded, it demonstrated that global luxury labels recognized BTS's members as valuable cultural connectors. Within this context, Jungkook's move to another brand in 2025 appears less like a sudden detour and more like a continuation of an evolving professional arc. Calvin Klein's campaigns with Jungkook also redefined how K-pop idols were perceived in Western advertising. Historically, endorsements often targeted domestic or regional markets. The scale of Jungkook's campaign, however, was global from the start, rolled out simultaneously across continents. It showcased not only Jungkook's visual appeal but also the commercial viability of K-pop stars in bridging cultural divides. This precedent has since influenced other brands in considering idols for ambassadorships, making Jungkook's Calvin Klein era a blueprint for future collaborations. For ARMY, the attachment to Jungkook's Calvin Klein image went beyond clothing. It became symbolic of his growth as an individual artist and global personality. Many fans viewed the campaign as Jungkook stepping into his own identity, distinct from BTS's group promotions. He was no longer just part of a collective, but also a figure who could independently command international fashion headlines. This personal branding aspect is critical, especially during BTS's chapter, when members are balancing group activities with solo ventures. The conclusion of Jungkook's Calvin Klein period, whether temporary or permanent, therefore carries weight. It raises questions about how he intends to shape his image moving forward and how the new brand in Los Angeles aligns with his evolving career. From a strategic standpoint, shifting from Calvin Klein to another global fashion house allows Jungkook to avoid being pigeonholed. It opens new stylistic narratives, new product categories, and potentially new audiences. Analysts often point out that celebrity branding thrives on freshness. While continuity provides stability, innovation keeps campaigns exciting. By moving beyond Calvin Klein, Jungkook demonstrates adaptability and ensures that his public persona remains dynamic. The Los Angeles announcement, therefore, is not only about a brand change, but also about long-term positioning in the competitive world of fashion and entertainment. In summary, the Calvin Klein era was a cornerstone in Jungkook's fashion journey. It proved his capability as a global ambassador, set new standards for K-pop in Western fashion, and solidified his reputation as more than a musician. Yet, as the events in Los Angeles revealed, even the most successful partnerships are subject to evolution. With one chapter closing, another begins, inviting observers to question what creative directions and industry impacts this new brand relationship will bring. And the months leading up to the Los Angeles announcement, it was widely assumed by both fans and industry observers that Jungkook's association with Calvin Klein would continue indefinitely. To understand why this belief became so prevalent, one must examine not only the visible success of the partnership, but also the broader mechanics of celebrity-brand relationships. On the surface, the synergy between Jungkook and Calvin Klein appeared almost flawless, giving little reason for audiences to anticipate a transition. From the beginning, Jungkook's image aligned naturally with Calvin Klein's core identity. The brand has long prided itself on minimalism, boldness, and universal accessibility. Jungkook's fashion choices, often understated yet commanding attention, seem to embody those qualities instinctively. When his campaign photographs first went public, the response was not simply positive but overwhelming. Social media platforms flooded with discussions, and marketing analysts quickly highlighted measurable spikes in consumer engagement. The results were so pronounced that the idea of discontinuation felt counterintuitive. Adding to this assumption was Calvin Klein's history of long-term collaborations. Although the brand frequently rotates ambassadors, it has also maintained relationships with certain figures across multiple seasons. This strategy builds brand continuity while allowing ambassadors to grow alongside evolving campaigns. Fans, familiar with this pattern, logically expected Jungkook to remain in that cycle. The momentum generated in 2023 and 2024 suggested that both parties benefited mutually, creating a narrative of stability. Another factor was the nature of ARMY's interaction with the campaign. BTS fans are known for their ability to amplify and sustain promotional efforts beyond their initial release. Unlike typical consumer responses that peak during the launch and taper off, ARMY's enthusiasm often maintains relevance long after the first wave. With Jungkook's Calvin Klein content, discussions persisted across months, resurfacing with each new photoshoot or reissued product line. This continuity of engagement reinforced the perception that the partnership was enduring rather than temporary. Behind these perceptions, however, lies the reality of how brand deals are structured. Ambassadorship contracts are usually time-bound, often spanning 1 to 3 years. They may include clauses for renewal, exclusivity, and product-specific obligations. While the public views campaigns through the lens of visibility and popularity, the actual agreements are shaped by complex negotiations involving financial terms, scheduling, creative rights, and long-term strategy. In Jungkook's case, it is entirely possible that his Calvin Klein contract was initially intended as a limited-term engagement, designed to maximize impact within a defined window. Brands frequently reassess ambassadorial relationships at the end of contract cycles. Even when collaborations are successful, companies may choose to diversify their representation, experiment with new faces, or adjust their marketing approaches to fit evolving market conditions. For instance, fashion brands often align ambassadors with specific product launches or seasonal collections. Once those cycles conclude, the need for renewal may diminish, regardless of how popular the ambassador remains. Thus, Jungkook's exit from Calvin Klein's roster does not necessarily reflect a decline in success, but rather a natural shift in contractual timelines and strategic direction. For Jungkook and his management, diversification is equally important. While maintaining a strong relationship with one brand offers stability, expanding into multiple collaborations provides broader exposure and creative freedom. Artists of Jungkook's stature often seek opportunities that reflect different aspects of their identity: streetwear, luxury, lifestyle, or sports fashion, allowing them to avoid being confined to a single image. This strategic balancing act ensures longevity in both the fashion and entertainment industries. The fan assumption of permanence also stemmed from the deep cultural impact of the campaign. Jungkook's Calvin Klein debut was not simply another advertisement. It marked a symbolic moment in which a K-pop idol occupied space traditionally dominated by Western celebrities. The historical significance of this crossover amplified its weight, leading many to interpret it as the beginning of a long-term era. When history-defining campaigns occur, the public often interprets them as foundational rather than transitional. Even though the industry itself operates on fluid cycles, it is also worth considering the role of media framing. Entertainment and fashion media outlets consistently highlighted Jungkook's Calvin Klein campaign as a perfect fit, reinforcing the narrative that the partnership was natural and enduring. Headlines describing Jungkook as the face of Calvin Klein for a new generation or the embodiment of Calvin Klein's vision shaped perceptions of permanence. Such framing rarely emphasizes contractual limitations, instead focusing on cultural symbolism, which creates lasting impressions among audiences. From the brand's perspective, Jungkook delivered exactly what they sought: visibility, sales, and cultural relevance. Yet maintaining long-term ambassadorships is not always the primary goal of fashion houses. In many cases, brands operate on cycles of renewal precisely because novelty drives consumer interest. By introducing new ambassadors, they create fresh conversations and attract different demographics. This cycle ensures that campaigns remain dynamic, preventing stagnation even when current partnerships are successful. The Los Angeles announcement, therefore, underscores the distinction between public perception and industry practice. Fans assumed permanence because of emotional and cultural resonance, while the fashion business operates on pragmatic timelines and strategies. Both perspectives are valid within their contexts, but they do not always align. For ARMY, Jungkook and Calvin Klein represented a fixed identity. For the fashion industry, it may have always been a chapter with a planned endpoint. In examining why this disconnect emerged, one must also acknowledge the evolving nature of celebrity influence. Jungkook, like other global figures, occupies a unique space where his image transcends a single brand. His association with Calvin Klein elevated both parties, but his cultural weight ensures that he is not confined to one narrative. The assumption of permanence was a testament to his impact, but the reality of transition reflects his broader adaptability. AS discussions now shift toward his new role in Los Angeles. The lessons from the Calvin Klein era remain crucial. They highlight the mechanics of brand deals, the expectations of fans, and the balancing act required by global celebrities. The surprise that Jungkook did not continue with Calvin Klein is, in many ways, less about an unexpected decision and more about the natural divergence between perception and practice. Ultimately, the belief in permanence reveals how deeply fans connect with symbolic partnerships. Jungkook's ambassadorship was never only about clothing, it was about identity, history, and cultural presence. That resonance made the relationship appear fixed, even when the industry itself was preparing for evolution. With Calvin Klein now behind him, at least temporarily, the path forward in Los Angeles is shaped by the same dynamics, contracts, strategies, and above all, the unpredictable nature of global fashion marketing.